Richard Taylor noticed all of the attention that Rashad Ritchie was getting on my channel, decided that he needed to dumb down his narrative to get some airtime, and boy did he ever. This concerns the shooting death of a cop and, oh lordy, let's get it on.
And here is some new information detailing how and why the officer, Brian Elliott of Indianapolis or Beech Grove, was shot by a black man when he kicked the door in, unbeknownst to the black man, and was subsequently shot. I won't say murdered. He was shot because, in my opinion, he should never kick the door in. But here's a news clip explaining some details about what happened and what they are trying to charge the young black man with. Just watch.
The man accused of killing Beech Grove police officer Brian Elliott is charged with murder. Wish TV was in the courtroom as Kenneth Johnson heard the charges against him today. IT-Mate's Tim Spears reports from the Beech Grove Police Department with new details on the moments leading to Elliott's death.
Officer Elliott died in the line of duty trying to save a woman's life. Investigators say he kicked down a door as a woman screamed for help when Johnson murdered him. As Kenneth Johnson walks into court, he's wearing the handcuffs belonging to Beech Grove police officer Brian Elliott, the man he's accused of killing.
That's a symbolic thing that is very meaningful for his fellow officers, for us, for his family, to know that he's still here with us and he's helping us through this case.
He doesn't need to be wearing the cuffs of the victim, in my opinion. That doesn't sit right with me.
How many years is life? That's into our die.
It's natural life. Natural life.
Besides killing cops, Kenneth Johnson also worked a side job as a nuclear physicist. How long is life? Well, tell me how long you plan on living, and I'll answer your question. I mean, have you ever heard the phrase, buried under the jail? Well, if you're convicted, that's what we plan on doing to you.
Prosecutors are seeking life in prison without parole, but say the death penalty is on the table.
I see the dignity and the grace that that family carries themselves with and the level of resiliency that they have.
Johnson was arrested after an hours-long manhunt that started with an argument over a car. A woman who lived with Johnson said he took off with her Buick, which she reported stolen. He came back with a gun, demanding $6,000. Police were then called to the Beach Meadow apartments when a neighbor heard a woman screaming. Prosecuting documents claim Johnson was beating that woman with the gun. Elliott and another officer arrived and could hear Johnson inside the apartment threatening to kill her. Elliott knocked. The victim cried, "Help me." Police say Elliott kicked open the door and Johnson opened fire.
He became a police officer because he wanted to help people and he wanted to make a difference in his community. And that's exactly what he was doing the day that he lost his life.
Elliott, shot multiple times, died at the hospital. His partner shot in the leg. Investigators say a police drone spotted Johnson hiding the gun in a laundry room where he was arrested, then admitted to the murder, telling officers, "Y'all know it was me." And while being driven to jail, said, "I can't believe I killed somebody today." That somebody, a man Beech Grove police filled the court to support. Even the officers standing over Johnson, wearing a black band around their badge in honor of Elliott's end of watch.
And we're all hurting. This badge that we wear on our chest, to most, looks like a piece of metal. But to us, it's very heavy, and it gets heavier every time something like this happens.
This was just a preliminary hearing, but if the officers show up in the peanut gallery wearing their uniforms, I'd have a real issue with that. If you're in uniform, then you'd better be testifying or on duty. And if you're on duty, you have no business attending the trial. We saw this with Rodney Hinton Jr., where the courtroom was packed with law enforcement in uniform. I'm not a fan of it. I hope the judges in the actual trials put an end to it. But they're not in front of a jury yet, so at this point, it's probably not going to be a big deal.
Prosecutor Mears said the decision whether to pursue the death penalty will involve, as he called it, pragmatic conversations with Officer Elliott's family about whether they would be willing to see that punishment through.
For the record, I don't think that this is a death penalty case, but the crime is against the state, so I don't see why the victim's family has any say in the punishment. If he's convicted and the jury sees fit to kill him, then so be it.
As we begin to collectively heal as a community, he will not be forgotten.
All right, and so there you see the details complete with the court appearance of Kenneth Johnson. Now, the whole story seems a little bit implausible to me.
And away we go.
This man who was living with the woman goes and steals her car, allegedly comebacks, demands $6,000, and then starts beating her, and she's screaming for her life. Now, that just doesn't, seem like a story to get the officers there. Nevertheless,
yeah, I mean, the person stealing another person's car? That's crazy talk. And what are the odds that the same person would commit domestic violence? Something just doesn't seem right.
In my opinion, when the officer kicked the door in, you notice they never said he announced himself as a police officer. And the young brother is pleading not guilty. So that means he didn't know it was a police officer.
Well, yeah, Kenneth Johnson didn't know that it was a police officer. And he didn't know because he pleaded not guilty. You think he would lie about such a thing? Oh, I'm sorry, I called him Kenneth. I meant to say young brother.
Could have been a intruder. You have what they call the castle doctrine, the stand your ground law, and several variations of when somebody comes into your house and you think they are an intruder, you have the right to defend yourself.
Yeah, there are some stipulations that you're sort of ignoring, Richard. You can't be committing a crime like beating your woman to the point where she screams for help and then claim castle doctrine.
And so even the man's statements, he said, well, I didn't know I was going to kill somebody today. I didn't know I can't believe I killed somebody today. That initially shows remorse. That doesn't sound like somebody's a cold-blooded killer who knew it was a police and who knew that they were going to take the life of a police officer.
Well, you don't have to be a cold-blooded killer to be convicted of murder. As for, I didn't know that I was going to kill someone today, somehow I don't sense the remorse in such a statement. But Richard, just because you wish you hadn't committed a crime doesn't mean you get to get away with it.
And once again, my opinion on the matter is that aggressive police tactic, kicking in the door, playing Captain Save-A-Hole, for lack of a better word, put him in that position as well.
Yes, this is the cop's fault, because by trying to save the woman's life, he put Kenneth in a position where he had to kill the officer.
Now he's appearing in court. They have all the symbolic gestures. He's wearing the handcuffs of the officer. They have 100 police officers there in the form of intimidation, which they call support.
I tend to agree with Richard on this.
But you can clearly tell that, the young brother is, not a cold-blooded killer. You heard him ask the judge, you mean life until I die? That doesn't sound like a cold-blooded killer. Now,
sounds like a moron. But then again, being a moron and cold-blooded killer are not mutually exclusive. For some reason, Richard plays a video clip that pretty much says the same as the one we played earlier. So we'll skip ahead.
New court documents reveal multiple neighbors called 911 Monday night after hearing a woman screaming inside Johnson's apartment. When Elliot and another officer arrived, they heard the same screams themselves and kicked the door. Police say Johnson opened fire as the door swung open.
If they heard the screams, they have exegesis. They can bust in at that point. Now, do you have a right to defend yourself? Yes, if the cops were mistaken in what they heard. However, if they were mistaken, that doesn't make their home entry illegal. Exegesis is based on what the cops perceived at the time, even if later found to be an error. So the defense is going to try and claim that Kenneth was not actually assaulting the woman, and therefore his shooting of the police officer was reasonable under the circumstances. So the woman's testimony will be crucial here. I don't think this is a slam dunk case, although I'd know where I'd put my money on if I was a betting man. What about the testimony of the neighbors? Well, if the cops were being accused of a crime, then that testimony could be used to prove their innocence. However, they're not on trial. Kenneth, the rocket scientist, is.
Fellow officers rushed both wounded officers to Eskenazi Hospital, where Elliot was pronounced dead. Investigators say Johnson jumped from a third-floor balcony and ran, sparking an hours-long manhunt. Officers found him hours later in a different apartment building's laundry room, reportedly with a handgun.
The fact that he fled the scene won't help his case. Perhaps it shouldn't matter, but it will. Unlike what many people in the Kyle Rittenhouse case thought, a person suspected of a crime is not obligated to stay at the scene of the alleged crime. But Kyle had a far better reason to flee the scene than Kenneth.
A judge entered a not guilty plea on Johnson's behalf. He remains in custody as this case moves forward.
People are continuing to work on this case, gather information, and so it's going to be a long journey.
A long journey towards justice for the family and loved ones of Officer Brian Elliott. In Indianapolis, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Johnson will soon be transferred to a facility outside Marion County. His next court appearance is set for May 27th. A jury trial is set for June, but that is probably going to get pushed to a later date.
All right. And so once again, you see the details that police kicked in the door when they heard allegedly a woman screaming. Once again, I think that gives him plausible deniability that he knew it was an officer. Never.
If he was committing a crime at the time, domestic violence, it won't matter if he thought it was an officer. An ordinary citizen can kick a door in to save the life of someone. And if you're committing a crime, you can't shoot them and then claim self-defense, even if you're inside your own home. Now, the crime has to have some nexus to the actual shooting.
Nevertheless, he's been charged. He's pled not guilty. They say that they are moving him to another facility, and we all know why that is, so he won't receive adverse treatment by guards in that county. But as we seen with Rodney Hinton Jr., that doesn't matter, because wherever you're at when you're accused of killing a law enforcement officer, they're going to treat you adversely.
I doubt that's the reason. Richard here is referring to the time that an officer spit on Rodney Hinton Jr. while in custody. However, I played that clip, and I don't think the officer spit on him at all. But other than the contentious claim of spitting, I'm not sure when I've heard of an officer beating a suspect while in custody for killing another officer.
But this situation, is fresh. The young man, once again, I believe, he didn't know it was a police officer. Just looking at him from my experience, he may be, suffering from some sort of substance abuse issue as well. So,
oh, well, if he was high on drugs, what's the problem? Why is he even being charged? Richard badly wants Kenneth acquitted. He's pulling all the stops out to defend his honor, and for the same reason that he crafted all kinds of arguments to excuse Rodney Hinton Jr.'s killing of a cop at random. Remember, it was Richard that pushed the theory that it was a white woman who was driving Rodney's car that hit the sheriff's deputy, who had the gall to be directing traffic at a university event. I'll say this, if you're black and you're accused of killing a white person, if Richard's on the jury, he's going to vote to acquit. And he's not going to care whether you're guilty or not. He doesn't see the killing of a white person as a crime.
So all those things should be taken into consideration, but the judge entered a not guilty plea for him. I don't know why that is, but, I think they are, trying to move forward swiftly. As they said, a jury trial is set for June. That's only 4 months away. So
the judge entered a not guilty plea because he's presumed not guilty until proven otherwise. Sovereign citizens seize on this to complain that the judge is practicing law from the bench, but judges don't really enter not guilty pleas on behalf of defendants. They set the matter for trial, and so the presumption of innocence carries over. The criminal justice system enters the plea of not guilty. Is 4 months enough time? Well, the defendant is entitled to a speedy trial, so what's the problem?
Probably going to be pushed back, but they seem to, be very, very serious in prosecuting this young man. So we don't know, like they haven't showed the quote unquote victim.
Yeah, quote unquote victim. Yeah, I can't imagine why they're taking this so seriously. And note how he's described as a young man. Richard has zero sympathy for the slain officer, none at all. And you know why.
Only narrative we have is the narrative that they're speaking. And so we don't even know if that's true or not. But, you know, shout out to the young brother. Hope he holds his head in this judicial system where, once again, you know, he is guilty until proven innocent, as opposed to being innocent until proven guilty.
And so Richard gives a shout out to the shooter and tells him to hold his head up high. This is sick. What is wrong with some people? This dude you see on the screen is hoping that a man accused of killing a cop gets off, and he doesn't care if he's guilty. That's enough. He gives out his private cell phone number so that people can message him with all sorts of lurid fantasies about the cop's guilt, and he'll buy into every one of those stories. But I'm not going to broadcast it here. So, what are Richard's subscribers saying? Here's some. That evil cop is going to the lake with the snake. Dead cops make good cops. Stop kicking down folks' doors and you want to get shot. What? Okay. Good. Bravo. I have contemplated being in that situation, and I think the young man's response was justified, despite how these KKK crackers word it. Unrepentant oppressors need to know that some of us fear being victims of injustice more than we fear the consequences of their diseased system. Are why serious they charged him with murder, one, and seeking death? Man, these evil white people. My heart goes out to this brother. He should be let go. Like my video and subscribe to my channel. And if any of you ever start posting crap like that in my comment section, you'll be tossed. I guarantee it.